Okay, so for what feels like forever, we've been hearing all this talk, all this speculation about how generative AI is going to change everything. But behind all the headlines, what are people actually doing with it? Well, guess what? For the very first time, we actually have the data. So let's pull back the curtain and see if the reality of how we're using ChatGPT actually matches the hype.
First things first, let's just talk about the sheer scale here. As of July 2025, ChatGPT had a mind-blowing 700 million weekly active users. And let me be clear, that's not just people who signed up once. That is 700 million people using it every single week. I mean, the speed of this adoption, it's something the world has never seen before with any new technology. And just to wrap your head around that number, 700 million users? That's about 10% of the entire adult population of planet Earth. Seriously, just think about that for a second. In just a couple of years, 1 out of every 10 adults on the planet has started using this tool. That's wild.
So that's the big question, right? With a user base this gigantic and this diverse, what are they all talking to ChatGPT about? Is it actually revolutionizing work like we hear? Is it just a tool for coders? Or is it becoming some kind of digital companion? Well, the data gives us some very surprising answers. Okay, so the first major revelation from all this research completely flips the script on what we thought we knew. While pretty much all the big economic analysis has been focused on AI's impact on workplace productivity, it turns out that's not where most of the action is, not even close.
And here it is, the first big shocker. As of mid-2025, a whopping 73% of all conversations on ChatGPT are personal. Yeah, they are not work-related. That means only about a quarter of all its usage is for our jobs. It's really become a tool for life, not just for the office.
And check this out, because this isn't even a static picture. Take a look at the trend on this chart. If you go back to mid-2024, over there on the left, you see non-work usage was just a little over 50%. Now just follow that black line as it shoots up to the right. In just 1 year, it has jumped to over 70%, and it's still climbing. This tells us two things. Brand new users are jumping in for personal reasons, and even the early adopters are starting to use it more in their personal lives than at the office.
So if it's mostly not for work, what in the world are people doing with it? Well, the answer actually busts some of the biggest myths we have about this technology.
Forget about all the weird fringe use cases. It turns out nearly 80% of everything people do with ChatGPT falls into just 3 main buckets. At the very top is practical guidance. We're talking about things like tutoring, getting how-to advice, or creative brainstorming. Right behind that, you've got seeking information and writing, which is everything from, drafting emails to summarizing long articles. Okay, but what about the big one? The idea that ChatGPT is basically a super tool for programmers, right? Well, the data says that's a myth. Computer programming accounts for a tiny 4.2% of all messages. Now, it's definitely a useful tool for coders, but they are nowhere near being the main user group.
All right, how about the other big story we hear all the time? People using AI for companionship or even therapy. Well, once again, the data tells a very different story. All the conversations about relationships, personal reflection, and even role-playing games. You combine all that, and it's just over 2% of messages. It's a really, really small niche.
Okay, this next part is, I think, the most brilliant and insightful concept from this entire study. To really get how people are interacting with AI, the researchers came up with this amazing new framework: the difference between asking and doing. So on one hand, you've got asking. This is when you're using the AI to get smarter or to make a better decision. You're looking for advice, you're looking for another perspective, for information. The AI here is basically acting like your co-pilot, helping you think things through. And on the other hand, you have doing. This is when you want the AI to actually perform a task for you and give you a specific output. Write this email, generate that code, create this project plan. In this case, the AI is acting a lot more like an automation tool. And this right here, this example just makes it all click. Asking, how should I structure this report, is all about improving your own process. Doing, write me a report, is about getting a finished product. This simple difference is really the key to understanding how AI is being used at work. Okay, so let's apply this to the workplace. This chart breaks down all the work-related messages. Now that big pink chunk you see in the middle, that's writing, which is a classic doing task.
But now look at all the other boxes, the green for brainstorming, the red for seeking information. When you add up all those asking categories, they represent a huge slice of professional use. It shows that even at work, we're using AI just as much to help us think as we are to just get stuff done.
So we know the what and we know the how, but who is the modern ChatGPT user? Well, the answer paints this global picture that has changed so dramatically since this technology first came out.
You know, back in the early days, the user base was really skewed. About 80% of users had typically masculine first names. But just watch what happens over 2 years. That gap has completely closed. As of 2025, the user base has reached gender parity, which just shows you how incredibly broad its appeal has become.
And it's the exact same story when we look at geography. It's just as dramatic. Look at the chart on the left from 2024. See how the data points are all kind of clustered in the corner? That shows adoption was mostly in higher income countries. Now look at the chart on the right from 2025. You can literally see the dots exploding upwards and outwards. It's just explosive growth in low and middle income nations. This thing is going global, fast. So if we were to paint a picture of the modern user, who would it be? Well, they're likely to be young. Nearly half of all messages come from people under 26. And while it's used by everyone, it's really those with higher education and in professional jobs like tech and management who are integrating it most deeply into their work lives.
So what does this all mean? When we put all these pieces of the puzzle together, a really clear picture starts to emerge about where the true value of this technology lies, at least for right now. The researchers wrap it up with this really crucial point. They say the main economic value isn't just about automating tasks we already do, it's about providing high-quality decision support, acting as that co-pilot that makes workers in knowledge-heavy jobs way better at what they do. So, let's boil this all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, AI is a tool for life, not just for work. Second, its real power is in practical guidance and writing, not niche stuff like coding. And most importantly, third, its true value is in asking, helping us make better decisions, not just in doing, automating our tasks. And that really leaves us with this one kind of fascinating final thought. It seems like we're not building an autopilot to take over for us. We're building a co-pilot to help us think better. So the real question for the future isn't just what tasks AI can do for us, but in which directions do we want this powerful new guide to help us go?